The protagonist, a swordsman named Ansuho, stood before his party, realizing they had poisoned him. His party urged him to join them, but as he looked down at his blood, memories of their past battles together flooded his mind. They explained that if all the gates were destroyed, their value would diminish, and they would be discarded. They offered him a place with them if he agreed not to destroy the final, largest gate. However, Ansuho refused to betray humanity for their cause, even as his body weakened from the poison. Summoning his remaining strength, he unleashed his magical powers, catching his party off guard. He managed to take down 3 of them, but 2 were quick enough to dodge his attack. When their healer attempted to treat the fallen members, she was horrified to find his healing abilities ineffective. Ansuho readied himself for another strike, releasing intangible sword, but his body gave in to the poison's effects. Losing consciousness, he collapsed, tumbling off the cliff. Suddenly, the system congratulated him for reaching the realm of the divine sword unity and awakening the ultimate swordsmanship. It offered him an opportunity to become even stronger as the first to reach the realm of the transcendent by rebooting the system of player Ansuho. Then Ansuho woke up, confused to find himself being carried by a man. The man explained that he was carrying Ansuho because he was injured. As he looked around, Ansuho was surprised to see the destruction and monsters surrounding them. He quickly realized that they were in the middle of a dungeon break. Suddenly, a goblin threw a knife directly at the man carrying him, causing the man to fall. As the goblin approached, the man urged Ansuho to run, but instead, Ansuho picked up an axe and walked toward the goblin. The man was confused, but Ansuho ignored him and threw the axe, landing a direct headshot that killed the goblin on the spot. It was then that he realized he wasn't injured after all. Then he noticed that the system congratulated him on awakening as a player. It was exactly the same as before. When he awakened as a player, 3 choices appeared before him: warrior, mage, archer, and healer. He instinctively prepared to choose the warrior class, but suddenly stopped. Then he reassured the injured man, saying, "Don't worry. Ansuho can handle them alone. They're just goblins, after all." Charging toward the goblins, they prepared to attack. However, Ansuho easily dodged their strikes, retrieved his axe from the head of a fallen goblin, and continued his advance. He slashed through the goblins, who fell lifeless to the ground. Picking up a sword from the ground, Ansuho knew that goblins were only a threat to beginner players. They were nothing to him. He prepared to cut them all down, destroying them one by one like paper targets. Yet, strangely, his anger wouldn't subside, and he got a little too excited. He knew he shouldn't act in anger. In times like these, he needed to remain cool-headed. If Ansuho wasn't mistaken, he had somehow returned to the past. This was a clear opportunity, like starting over from scratch. Before him, the system displayed numerous congratulatory prompts, awarding him basic sword skills. The sword was a bit short for Ansuho, but it was useful for dealing with goblins. The injured man asked him, "Are you a player?" And he nodded in agreement. He realized he hadn't made his decision yet. Looking toward the system, he chose the healer class. He had officially become a healer. Ansuho was awarded 5 bonus stat points and acquired healing light at rank F. Our boy took a look at the man's wounds and told him to bear with it for a little longer. Activating healing light, he began to heal the designated area. He removed the arrow from the man's body and healed him completely. The man was surprised by his healing ability. Then the system prompted him to pick a weapon, so he took out a beginner's sword from the system window. As his gaze fell on his reflection in the blade, he told himself that he would go alone to conquer the gate, surprising the injured man. Ansuho began walking forward, thinking that just as he had gained swordsmanship skills before choosing his class, any skills acquired based on talent could be used freely, regardless of class. Furthermore, the skills of the chosen class would automatically upgrade as the player's level increased. Isabella's Holy Spirit Light had also begun as healing light. If he had been able to heal his wounds back then, the outcome would certainly have been different. This time, he would become both a swordsman and a healer. To prevent the same fate from happening again, Ansuho knew he needed to grow stronger, and faster than those others. He had to acquire skills quickly and level up. If he remembered correctly, that gate was an unpredictable premonition gate. In his past life, Ansuho had nearly died because of it, but now things were different. His skill level was low, so it might still be difficult, but that was fine. The swordsmanship engraved in his mind remained, and he could start over again. With determination, he entered the gate. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a strange landscape known as the Red Forest. Ansuho stepped through the gate into a dense forest, and immediately noticed goblin corpses scattered across the ground. He realized that the very creatures that had once rampaged beyond the gate, as if they owned the world, now lay lifeless within. It seemed they had fled through the gate in a desperate attempt to escape something. Suddenly, low growls filled the air, exposing the terrifying force that had driven the goblins to retreat. 2 level 10 hobgoblins stood before him. One threw a dead goblin aside, pointed its sword at Ansuho, and began to smile. He recognized that they intended to make him their prey instead of the goblins. These hobgoblins had red skin, larger bodies, and stronger muscles than regular goblins. Suddenly, one red goblin attacked, but Ansuho dodged with ease. Confused, the goblin missed, and the other one charged at him. Ansuho knew his level was too low to cut through their skin. So first, Ansuho created some distance, then quickly leaped toward the red goblin, his sword aimed directly at the creature's eye. The goblin began screaming as the blade pierced its eye. Ansuho just needed to find the creature's weakness and exploit it. Of course, this would be impossible if there was a vast difference in level or if the monster's abilities were overwhelmingly superior. Without even thinking, our boy killed it out of habit. He just couldn't help himself. He guessed he'd have to be more careful this time. He needed to make use of this chance until he found another one. The another half-goblin staggered to its feet, its eyes burning with anger as it glared at our boy. With a furious roar, it charged forward, trying to land a blow on him, but our boy dodged every swing with effortless ease. If the goblin repeated a certain action enough times, it could acquire a skill related to that move. If our protagonist, Ansuho, kept dodging the hobgoblin's attacks like this, he might just be fueling its potential to grow stronger. Then the system congratulated him for mastering the dodge skill, now at rank B. With the dodge skill acquired, he and the hobgoblin readied their weapons and clashed once more. Our boy needed another skill parry to gain the upper hand. He was thinking that parrying had a deep history, with specialized weapons designed for it. It was an essential skill, forming the foundation for many other important techniques. As he clashed weapons with the enemy, the system congratulated him for mastering the parry skill, now at rank B. Our boy had obtained the parry skill before the hobgoblin even had a chance to tire. The hobgoblin was finished, and our boy swiftly ended its life. Now he needed to find the others. Determined, he decided to start earning experience points in earnest. Outside the gate, a group of men were furious that our boy had entered without permission. They questioned the previous guard, who explained the incident to them. It was shocking despite their delayed arrival. Our boy had already taken care of all the goblins and, astonishingly, even healed himself. To them, it was utterly ridiculous. Looking at the facts, the gate itself didn't appear too difficult. Still, could he really be saying that a healer was going to conquer the gate all by himself? He wondered, especially after seeing how effortlessly their boy took out a bunch of goblins without so much as a scratch. No, he must have rushed in without thinking. However, if their boy actually managed to clear the gate, the man instructed his assistant, report immediately if there's any change in the gate. Nervously, the man looked down at his phone, thoughts racing. If that happens, no matter what, they have to make that person one of theirs. On the other side, our MC Ansuho was charging forward, cutting down the red goblins with ease. The monsters were horrified, unable to stop him as he sliced through them like cabbage, their bodies crumpling to the ground like harvested crops. One trembling goblin raised its hand in a futile gesture of surrender, but our boy Ansuho kicked it away without hesitation. The monster shuddered in fear before our MC, Ansuho, who stared down at him, contemplating whether to let him go. He wanted the goblin to return with reinforcements. With a panicked scream, the red goblin bolted, fleeing from the scene. Our MC called after him, "Bring as many as you can." As he waited for them to return, our MC calmly managed his stats, preparing for the next wave. It was better for him to raise all his stats evenly, rather than focusing on just one. He had received quite a few bonus stats and caught a large number of monsters, which made leveling up incredibly easy for him. Our boy had already acquired most of the basic skills, and now, he was on the lookout for the next one. He glanced down at the goblin's body, reaching inside and pulling out a glowing magical crystal. A magic stone of this size could easily be sold for 50,000 won, and it was also a D-grade stone. In the past, RMC wouldn't have bothered to collect something so small. But now, with his funds running low, he couldn't afford to pass up any opportunity. He searched more thoroughly, his eyes scanning every corner until at last he found the last one. He stored the items in his inventory, muttering to himself that if he sold everything, the profit would be quite nice. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble, and he realized they were finally here. Now if our MC took them down, the boss would likely appear. There were about 30 of them, reflecting their image on his sword. He thought to himself, they'll make for some good experience points before facing the boss. The protagonist, Ansuho, having just defeated the red goblin, growled as he pointed at him and declared, "It's him." His companions, fueled by anger, charged toward him, ready to strike. But the protagonist, Ansuho, with a swift leap, met them head-on, his sword slicing through their ranks with ease. Heads flew from their bodies as he leveled up at an astonishing speed. However, the sheer number of foes seemed endless, and the protagonist realized he had to end this quickly. Raising his sword high, he cut down enemies left and right. But just as he was in the heat of battle, a sharp sensation warned him of an attack coming from his right. He dodged just in time, catching sight of the source, the level 20 chief. Hobgoblin, the boss monster. The red goblin swung its axe at the protagonist, but he swiftly leaped away, evading the attack. As the goblin charged again, the protagonist parried with his sword, blocking the blow with ease. Creating some distance, he swiftly dealt with the goblin's companions, eliminating them one by one. He landed gracefully, but the monster, furious beyond measure, unleashed a wave of terrifying fear. The protagonist Ansuho fell into a state of terror, his muscles locking up in a rigid, paralyzing fear. He had never expected to encounter someone wielding fear at such a low-level gate. After all, it was a boss monster. The creature grinned wickedly, its smile stretching from ear to ear, as it and its minions closed in on him from every side. With no skills or items to protect his mind, the protagonist was unable to counter the fear gripping him. Just as the boss monster prepared to strike, he slashed his own hand with his sword, the pain snapping him free from the paralyzing terror. That was too close. With a grim determination, he drew his sword and blocked the monster's incoming attack. No time to waste. He he decided to deal with the smaller threats first. He activated Healing Light, the designated area glowing with a soothing radiance as wounds began to heal. Standing alone before the boss monster, the protagonist faced its furious glare. Despite the monster's rage, he seemed almost at ease, as if enjoying a quiet moment between the two of them. The battle erupted as they clashed, trading blow after blow. It quickly became clear that, due to the vast level difference, the protagonist's strikes weren't dealing significant damage. However, the damage was gradually accumulating, each hit chipping away at the monster's defenses. He seized the opportunity, exploiting the gaps in the wounds he had already inflicted to land a fatal strike. In a fluid motion, Ansuho lunged forward, driving his sword deep into the monster's leg. The creature howled in agony, unleashing its fierce skill in a desperate attempt to break him. But it was futile. Once Ansuho had conquered fear, it could no longer affect him. The monster's attempt was powerless against him now. He drew his sword from the wound and unleashed a flurry of strikes, each one landing with precision. With a final, powerful swing, he felled the monster. Stepping forward, he began healing the beast, leaving the monster bewildered by the unexpected turn of events. Ansuho ordered the monster to rise, his voice firm and commanding. He wasn't anywhere near done with it. Moments later, a flurry of system notifications flooded his view, each one marking the acquisition of new skills. Without hesitation, he activated his healing ability once more on the monster. The beast, its head clenched in agony and fear, trembled uncontrollably. To his surprise, Ansuho soon mastered intimidation, unlocking a terrifying new power. He had learned everything there was to know. Turning to the creature, he coldly declared that its role had ended, and with a swift, decisive move, he ended its life. He had leveled up to level 10, unlocking the powerful Healing Light and Cure skills. No longer did he need to worry about debuffs. If he continued honing his abilities and gaining experience, one day he would be capable of curing even the most deadly of poisons. He was ready for whatever came next, feeling fully equipped for the challenges ahead. As he walked away, his thoughts drifted to familiar faces he hadn't seen in a long time. But as he approached the gates, something strange caught his attention. The gate was shaking, and rumors spread like wildfire. The gate had been conquered? Then someone emerged. The crowd stared in shock as the figure walked forward, their eyes wide with awe. Whispers filled the air as people tried to make sense of what was happening. Guilds scrambled to recruit him, but he paid them no mind, walking past them without a second glance. Then he landed in front of the man and called out, "Team Leader Jung Chulman of the South Korean Hunter Association." His voice rang with authority, but there was an undercurrent of confusion in the air. His colleague, eyeing the situation, asked, "Team Leader, do you know him?" Jung Chulman shook his head and replied, "No, not at all." Sometime later, at the South Korean Hunter Association, he was sitting down with Jung Chulman, who was worriedly looking at his tablet. He recalled the past conversation when the protagonist had extended his hand, and Jung Chulman had asked how he knew him. His voice betrayed the uncertainty he couldn't hide. Ansuho suggested they discuss the details later at the association, knowing he was heading there soon to acquire his hunter's license. Confused, Jung Chulman questioned him. "Is it a license renewal?" He quickly dismissed the thought, realizing it couldn't be. This meant the man was an unregistered hunter, a newly awakened player. The healer class was considered the weakest among the 4 class categories, yet he had conquered the gate alone. How was that possible? Jung Chulman was confused. However, if he examined the results more closely, it became clear that the man resembled a warrior more than a healer. The protagonist, Ansuho, innocently asked, "Is there a problem with the result?" He replied with a shrug, "It's nothing. His name is Ansuho." Then, after a brief pause, he agreed and asked, "What was he originally doing?" Ansuho replied casually, "I'm just a college dropout." He admitted that he hadn't done well in college. Jung Chulman asked, "So, were you a medical student?" Ansuho revealed that he had studied physical education, leaving Jung Chulman even more confused. "Normally, people would choose to be a warrior or an archer," he said. "Why did you choose to be a healer?" Ansuho smiled and replied that he hated getting hurt. That was unusual, so Jung Chulman asked about the process of conquering the gate alone. Ansuho explained that there wasn't really much of a process. "He just entered the gate, and a hobgoblin attacked me," he said casually. "I killed it to survive." Then, Ansuho took out several magical crystals from his storage, shocking Jung Chulman. "These are the magic crystals I got from killing the hobgoblin, and also the chief." Ansuho truly didn't know the value of a magic crystal, so he asked if he could leave them with him. It was a considerable amount, and Jung Chulman agreed. "I'll process it as quickly as possible," he assured him. He asked our MC Ansuho if he truly wanted to be a hunter, and Ansuho nodded in agreement. He had made the decision the moment he awakened as a player. Jung Chulman was overjoyed when he heard that, though he quickly tried to hide his excitement. Ansuho, noticing his struggle, said he wasn't sure but thought he really can't hide his expressions. There are many reasons why people become hunters, but Ansuho truly hated monsters and gates. He had lost his entire family because of a gate shock. He knew it was dangerous, but entering the gate alone had been an emotional decision. Ansuho wondered if killing the monsters would ease his frustration. He had killed the monsters he came across, but strangely, he still couldn't rid himself of the heaviness in his heart. That was when he instinctively realized what he had to do: prevent others from becoming victims like him. He said, "Don't let people lose something precious to monsters." Ansuho wanted to work for everyone's safety, so he aimed to become a hunter in the South Korean Hunter Association. Jung Cholman was genuinely happy to hear that, but he couldn't help asking, "Are you sure?" "Becoming a part of SKHA means living as a civil servant hunter," he explained. "As you know, our pay is quite a bit lower than the hunters in private guilds." Ansuho was already aware of that, and he told him that what he wanted more than pay was free access to various gates, priority in conquering them, and the strict punishment SKHA imposed on player crimes. Jung Cholman was confused, so Ansuho explained that he wanted to work in the field, preferably focusing on gate conquests. Jung Cholman couldn't help but wonder, is this even possible? No matter how much SKA held priority conquest rights to various gates, they typically auctioned them off to private guilds. The reason was simple: there was no need to risk one's life attacking the gates for such a meager salary. It is often claimed that the path of becoming a hunter civil servant is chosen out of altruism. Yet in reality, most individuals pursue this career for its stability. It offers a reliable income without the need to venture beyond the gates, a tempting prospect for many. They are all aiming for an administration job, while other civil servants are in a frenzy, doing everything they can to avoid entering the gates. But Ansuho is different. A person who wants to work in the fields and prioritize people's safety, truly the ideal type of civil servant hunter. Jung Cholman was so thrilled by this that it nearly made him dizzy. He told him to take the hunter exam, explaining that he now needed to complete the aptitude test, a written exam, and a practical exam. He was shocked when he heard that the registration for this year's exam had already closed, and that tomorrow was the exam day. However, he was relieved when he was told that if he wanted, Jung Cholman could register him additionally. This was one of the established rules. Since he had conquered the gate on his own, he could report it to the higher-ups and secure their approval. Jung Cholman recommended our MC, Ansuho, because of his exceptional talent. Having displayed such outstanding performance in the fields, Jung Cholman had no doubts about his physical exams. But Jung Cholman couldn't help but feel a twinge of worry about the written test. Meanwhile, the protagonist, Ansuho, calm and composed, politely requested, "Please register me for the exam." With a smile, he added, "It's a great idea to take the exam at least once for the experience, especially when you have the chance." Even if he failed, he knew he could always take the test again next time. Ansuho gratefully thanked Jung Cholman for the helpful advice. However, he was short on money for the registration fee. With a polite request, he asked, "Would it be possible for me to handle the magic crystal right now?" He understood the situation and took care of it while reviewing his aptitude test. Even now, the only person Ansuho could truly trust was Jung Cholman. Grateful, Ansuho thanked him sincerely. After some time, they had completed all the aptitude tests, and Jung Cholman deposited all the money from the magic stone. Seeing the 3 million won, Ansuho couldn't help but wonder, is this for real? It was a bit embarrassing, but as a civil servant hunter, Jung Cholman was entitled to tax exemption benefits specifically for magic crystals. Ansuho approached the team leader and asked, "One more favor?" He had heard that the association had a library, stocked with workbooks and reference books related to tomorrow's test. Though it was already late, with the test looming the next day, Ansuho felt the urgent need to cram. Ansuho asked if it would be okay to prepare for the exam there, should Jung Cholman allow it. Jung Cholman responded with a warm smile. "Of course you can. Feel free to study here." As Ansuho settled into study, Jung Cholman couldn't help but hope that he would do well on his test the next day. Jung Cholman reflected. Brother Cholman is still the same as before, always kind and trustworthy. What he didn't know was that, in the future, Ansuho would rise to become the president of the association. It hadn't been easy pretending to know nothing, though. He felt like he was teasing him, but if Ansuho acted like he already knew everything, Jung Cholman would become suspicious. So, Ansuho made up his mind to find that thing. He remembered the major events that would unfold in the future, but he couldn't recall every single detail, as he was still human. It would certainly be helpful to acquire that skill. Then he spotted a large book and grabbed it, thinking about how he was trying to gather information from it. To his surprise, it was a book from another world. As he flipped through the pages, he noticed a simple sentence appearing, followed by different ways to interpret and use it. He opened the book and placed it on his head, but it didn't work. Just as he was about to give up, a system prompt appeared, stating, "The Library of Memories is interested in your story and is inviting you." Before he could react, the book began to glow, and in an instant, he was teleported inside the Library of Memories. It makes one remember everything they have seen and heard, even if it is a painful and distressing memory. The human mind can endure for a long time thanks to the mechanism of forgetting, but the moment someone obtains the Library of Memories, they fall under the curse of memory. The original holder of this skill was the manager of the Hexagon Guild, Hexagon, a former employee of the Korean Hunter Association. While studying in the library and preparing for a job change, she used this book as a pillow to sleep, as sleeping face down was uncomfortable. It is said that she was fortunate enough to acquire the skill. Jung Cholman got that information thanks to her, so he would have to buy her a meal when he saw her next time. The Library of Memories asked if he would like to donate his story. He thought about the overwhelming power this skill could provide. With it, he could restore all of his memories. As time passes, memories fade and become edited. To capture everything accurately, even the overlooked details, he knew he must acquire this skill. His story was accepted, and he began to access and document his memories. Then, a magical circle began appearing around him, and the Library of Memories opened. He gained the skill Library of Memories. Perhaps because it was an illusionary space, the recording process felt quite strange. Now that he had acquired the skill, he tested it by diving into his past memories. He witnessed the final moments of his previous life, recalling how he had been injured and falling, betrayed by selfish traitors who had sabotaged the closure of the gate to ensure their own survival. He would never forget them. The memory was unpleasant, and he wished he had thought of something else. Suddenly, a system window appeared before him, surprising him as it stated, "I want to grant you the opportunity to become stronger as the first to reach the realm of the transcendent." Rebooting the system of player Ansuho, his memory flashback ended, and he realized that the system had sent him back to the past. He remembered reaching the state of unity with the divine sword and acquiring his first SS grade skill. But since he was the first to reach the state of the transcendent, it was giving him another opportunity. He had never even heard of anything like this, which meant it was no coincidence that he had returned to the past. Sometime later, the taxi stopped, and our protagonist Ansuho got out, thinking, whatever the reason, what's important is that he returned to the past. That meant not only could he prevent what had happened to him, but also that he could initially suppress the unpredictable gates, which had caused enormous casualties. Yes, he would give it a try. Perhaps he could conquer the gates much faster than in his past life. He couldn't afford to waste any of his precious time. He stood before the Private Hunter Academy Nexus, thinking, they say it's the largest in the country, and it really is impressive. He knew he needed a lot of money for the future, and hoped to make some here. The receptionist asked him, "What brings you here today?" But he replied that he would like to meet Director Kim Sue-yi. She looked confused and asked, "Did you schedule a separate appointment?" "No," he replied. "I just came by and have something to discuss with her." She apologized, explaining that he would have to schedule in advance. Ansuho then asked, could she just pass along a message? He told her, "Tell her the solo conqueror of the Syndrome Station Pre-Catastrophe Gate is here." Sometime later, he was in the director's office, where he was greeted by Kim Sue-yi, the director of Nexus Academy. She acknowledged that she had heard he was the solo conqueror of the Syndrome Pre-Catastrophe Gate and asked, "What brings you to Nexus?" He replied that he had come to ask for a scholarship and mentioned that he would be taking the test tomorrow. She looked confused and asked, "How long has it been since your awakening?" He answered, "Today," which surprised her. She then asked, "So you were also the solo raider of the Pre-Catastrophe Gate that occurred in Syndrome today?" He nodded, saying yes. "Right after awakening, I was lucky enough to have a connection with someone from the Hunter Association who helped me secure a spot for the test. I'm planning to aim for the top position in this test. If I pass as the top candidate, please grant me the status of a Nexus scholarship student." He looked at her and added, "And of course, you should also provide a scholarship." He thought it was hard for a complete rookie to reach the top, but he was a veteran who had conquered countless gates. Believe it or not, the choice was hers. It was impressive that he had single-handedly conquered an unprecedented gate, but the Hunter test was a different matter altogether, with an average passing rate of less than 20%. So he suggested that if he didn't come in first, she could simply disregard him, and the same went for the scholarship payment. She asked him, "There's also Hexagon and Prime. Why did you choose Nexus?" He replied, "Because Nexus is in the most regrettable situation." She looked confused, so he explained, as far as he knew, Nexus Academy was the largest in the country, but in recent years, they had failed to produce a first or second place winner. As a result, the number of students had noticeably decreased. Sadly, but it is true, she thought. They also need to start showing some results. Yet there isn't an outstanding student who has shown significant growth. What if she accepts his proposal, and he truly comes out on top? The lone conqueror of the Premonitory Gate, passing the Hunter test with the highest score on Suho. If word spreads that he's from Nexus, the ones to benefit the most will be Nexus Academy. It's a proposal with nothing to lose. There's only one reason to hesitate on an offer that should naturally be accepted. She asked how much money he was expecting to get from the scholarship. Our MC asked her how much the scholarship was for the top student. She replied, a full refund of the tuition fees for that year, along with an additional 30 million won as a congratulatory bonus for passing. And if the examinee wants, they can join the Nexus Guild immediately, he exclaimed, as expected from the largest academy. But there was a hint of uncertainty, and she told him, I didn't expect this much. She asked if he could please tell her honestly how much he would like. He thought for a moment, then, with an innocent smile, replied, 300 million would be nice. She was sweating from nervousness as he continued considering the additional benefits that came with passing as the top student and the size of the academy. It was a reasonable amount. 300 million wasn't a lot of money for Nexus. She nervously thought he was only stating facts, so she couldn't really say anything. If he passed as the top test taker, she would pay him the 300 million won. Then she prepared the contract. Sometime later, someone said, the more he looks around, the more he realizes just how massive this place is. It seems even larger than an amusement park. Once he enrolls in Nexus, he won't lack anything. He was very exhausted. After all, it was the largest academy in South Korea. Ansuho guessed they had woken him up while he was sleeping. Ansuho felt bad for no reason. Ansuho thanked him for showing their MC around, even at this late hour. There was someone on the playground, but the MC wasn't able to see clearly from here. Is that a student? The man replied, yes, he's the most dedicated student. The man told Daehan, practice is important, but taking care of your body is crucial too. He replied that since he was already a third-year student, he needed to work even harder. Ansuho had formed several raid parties in his previous life with Daehan, who had once been the top tanker in the country, renowned for his immense mental strength and defense. Unfortunately, the role of pure tankers had weakened over time. Seeing Daehan wielding an axe instead of a shield now, it seemed he hadn't yet discovered his true aptitude. This was perfect, since things had come to this. Ansuho decided to lay some groundwork in advance. Knowing that Daehan would later join Nexus, Ansuho resolved to build a connection with him now and bring him into the Great Hunter Association in this life. The man introduced Daehan to Ansuho. Mr. Suho, this is Kong Daehan, a student at our academy. They both greeted each other. From what Ansuho had heard, it seemed like Daehan was a test taker, so he asked him, "Are you planning on using a battle axe as your main weapon?" Daehan agreed. Ansuho asked why Daehan had specifically chosen the battle axe. He looked confused, then replied that he was aiming to be a melee user, and after consulting with others, they recommended it. They said that such weapons needed to be suited to his physique from the start to handle them. The man said, "When it comes to destructive power, nothing can match the battle axe." Ansuho asked, "So, have you only been using the battle axe?" Daehan replied, "Yes, I was a bit of a slow learner. It would take too long to try out different weapons. It had taken him 2 years to become proficient with the battle axe alone. He was not very good at it either." Ansuho thought, "That's because it's a weapon that doesn't fit your aptitude at all." Ansuho wondered if it was perseverance or just stubbornness. No, he should have tried to switch weapons if his weapon proficiency hadn't improved from the start. They asked him in confusion, "Is there any problem?" Ansuho added, "The largest academy in the country is surprisingly lax." He was thinking of something different. Ansuho thought he should use a weapon that Daehan was comfortable handling. He could quickly increase Daehan's skill proficiency with a skill correction effect. Other things depend on personal knowledge and experience, though. In that sense, the battle axe doesn't seem to suit him, Mr. Kong. He was surprised when he heard that the fact it took him 2 years to become proficient with it indicated that his skills and the battle axe didn't synergize well. Ansuho explained, "The battle axe has high instantaneous destructive power. However, the gap that occurs after an attack is too long, and if there are no countermeasures to prepare for that interval, he will be counterattacked." That said, Mr. Daehan's size was too large to be protected by a tank. Worriedly, Daehan said he had been handling only this weapon for a whole 3 years. Ansuho told him, "If you have the perseverance to handle a weapon that doesn't suit you for 3 years, it seems that Kong Daehan's aptitude is actually closer to that of a tank." Ansuho further added, "Wear a kite shield on your left arm and hold a one-handed bludgeon in your right hand. Then your practical scores will improve significantly compared to now." Ansuho was recommending that he change to a tank now, but wouldn't it be difficult to change positions at this point, especially since the test was tomorrow? Ansuho asked Daehan if he knew what he thought was the core of a party. He then explained, "Is it the mage? No, the core of a party is the tank. The tank needs to draw aggro while protecting the mage and healer for the party to function properly. Wouldn't it be better to wield a shield? To use crowd control effectively, a tank should handle at least one primary weapon besides a shield." It sounded good to Daehan, and he agreed to give it a try. Ansuho thought it was a good thing he was not discouraged and was quick to make rational decisions. Ansuho told him, "Good luck then." Daehan thanked him, and then he left from there. With a polite nod, Suho introduced Ansuho as a guest. However, a curious thought crossed his mind, prompting him to ask, "Are you here as an instructor, by any chance?" Ansuho's deep understanding of contracts and advice was impressive, yet Suho couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. A nervous thought ran through Suho's mind. It would be a bit suspicious if someone without a license knew this much. He supposed that Ansuho was more likely to be a stakeholder. Ansuho then asked, "By the way, is the contract ready?" It seems like quite some time has passed. The man had just received a call about that, and then headed back to the director's office. The next day, on the day of the hunter test at the South Korea Hunter Association, the area in front of the association was filled with examinees holding their swords, all eager to obtain their hunter licenses. Everyone had honed their skills for this day and arrived in peak condition. Among them was the man of the hour, Ansuho, who had conquered a gate alone. However, he was tired from wandering around too much the previous day and was in his worst condition. The participants were lined up in order to receive their test numbers. They then proceeded with the drug test one by one. Although it was a test conducted due to possible doping, situations like this meant little to the main character, who was already weary of the process, knowing that people who take drugs usually don't use ordinary drugs but skill buffs instead. The test administrator's level was at most 5, which was a magic wavelength that wouldn't typically come from someone at such a low level. Not only was that woman buffed, but quite a few other participants had been enhanced as well. He was sensing that distinguishing magic was much more sensitive compared to others. With his magic detection, it was much clearer to distinguish. Despite the time that had passed, it was still a mess. Even though the issue of doping and the abuse of buff skills hadn't yet surfaced, there were already so many cheaters. Ansuho knew he needed to sort it out once and for all. Then, he spotted Jung Chulman and thought, luckily, there is someone clean here. A man asked a participant if he had done well on the written test. The participant replied that he was going to retake the test. Our main character overheard their conversation and silently thanked the Library of Memories. It was a piece of cake. Ansuho felt like he had unintentionally become a cheater. Suddenly, someone called out to him, "Suho," and it was team leader Jung Chulman. He asked, "How was your test?" Suho thought he could pass and responded by asking, "But what brings you here?" Jung Chulman explained that he had come to assist, as the association was always short on staff. He mentioned that he had heard this was considered the hardest written test ever. but Suho's confidence was impressive. Ansuho believed he had been able to solve it. He then addressed team leader Jung, saying, "I noticed earlier that they didn't conduct a buff check. Is there a reason for that?" Ansuho had felt something was off during the earlier test and requested, "Please check it out." He added, "To prevent drug doping, the association conducts urine and blood tests. They also confiscate belongings to prevent cheating with items and require test takers to change into exam uniforms. But I wonder if they don't specifically check for cheating using skills. Magic detection would make it easier to spot cheaters." Jung Chulman thanked Ansuho and said he would check before the practical test. Ansuho then decided to go prepare for the practical test. Before he could leave, Jung Chulman suddenly stopped Suho. He personally wanted him to join, as he truly wanted to work with him. He hoped Suho would get a good result on the practical test. Our protagonist Ansuho thanked him in response. 30 minutes later, at the practical test venue, the announcer stated that the test would be postponed by 2 hours due to issues with the dive capsules. Ansuho wondered if the capsule issue was just an excuse. Perhaps Chulman was taking measures against the cheating buffs. As expected, he was acting quickly. There were 1,200 candidates in this test, and the passing rate was below 10%. If they could identify the cheaters here, maybe it would drop to 7%. Those who passed this exam would be pure, top-notch talents. Ansuho knew he should keep an eye out for anyone useful among them. Then, Ansuho heard someone challenging a man to a match. The man aggressively pushed him away and glared angrily at him. Suddenly, the other man tried to attack, but Ansuho blocked the strike. He was pushed back, confused, while the other man shouted behind him. Ansuho calmly told him, "I'll take care of this. Please calm down." The man asked, "Is he an officer?" Ansuho replied, "As you can see, he's just a fellow test taker. Nothing good will come from getting involved with him." The other man asked, "Why is he interfering?" Ansuho smiled and said, "It seems he's looking for a sparring partner. How about sparring with him?" He was not going to spar with someone as weak as the man, and our poor main character's heart was broken. The man guessed that Ansuho had just gotten lucky earlier. He told the protagonist, "Ansuho, but don't get cocky because of it. Now get lost." Ansuho mocked him, asking if he was scared, which made the man very angry. Ansuho further fueled his anger by suggesting they should just check if it was luck or not. From what he could see, it seemed like the man was too scared to do it, and the man agreed to have a match. The man was bored anyway, surrounded by nothing but cowardly idiots. Ansuho asked if he accepted, and he agreed. He had heard there was a sparring arena, so they decided to get the supervisor's approval and do it there. They were both facing each other in the sparring arena, and the other participants were talking about how they couldn't hold back on a day like this and cause such a scene. Only training weapons provided by the association were allowed, so the match began. The man charged directly at Ansuho, trying to land some hits, but Ansuho blocked his attacks with ease. The man then jumped up, attempting a powerful strike, but Ansuho easily dodged his sword swing. Mockingly, Ansuho looked at the man, which only made him angrier. The man swung his sword again, but Ansuho dodged it and stopped it with his foot. The man was confused, and Ansuho further mocked him, asking, "Why are you so weak? What a completely weak person." The man was furious and cursed at Ansuho. The mad swordsman Park Yong had a deep thirst for power. He would pick fights with experts whenever the chance arose, driven by his desire for even more advanced swordsmanship and greater strength. His excessive hunger for power eventually transformed him into a ruthless hunter-killer. Ansuho wondered who would have thought that such a person would be in this cohort. His skills had been impressive when they faced each other in his past life. Ansuho needed to take preventive measures to avoid repeating the same mistakes. Kicking him away, Ansuho exclaimed, "How dull. He was talking so big earlier, but I thought he was someone great." Park Yong asked, "What's with that immense strength of yours?" Ansuho replied, "Even if he tries to rush at Ansuho, it won't work. Does he want to keep going?" Park Yong must have been flustered, as it was his first time facing a level 10. Of all the opponents he had fought so far, the strongest had probably been level 5. Park Yong became interested and then stood up. He now saw why Ansuho had been so relaxed. This time, he was going all out. Ansuho replied that he would play with him. Then he jumped up and attempted to land a powerful strike, but Ansuho easily blocked it. Park Yong continued attacking, but Ansuho effortlessly countered each move. Park Yong released a red energy, and Ansuho realized that this posture was from Park Yong's original technique, the Dragon Sword technique. Park Yong unleashed a powerful strike, feeling the impact as it hit perfectly. However, he was shocked when Ansuho blocked it effortlessly. Ansuho was not generous enough to take a hit from such a slow attack. He thought that it wasn't the Dragon Sword technique yet, but rather the basic sword technique. Of course, there was no way a beginner without a hunter's license could have mastered the original technique. Then Park Yong began attacking Ansuho wildly, but Ansuho effortlessly blocked and dodged each strike. Park Yong attempted to land a powerful final swing on Ansuho, but Ansuho countered with a palm strike to his chin, knocking Park Yong unconscious. He fell to the ground, defeated. Ansuho decided to stop here for now. If he damaged any more of Park Yong's confidence, it would really cause big trouble. Now that Park Yong was fixated on him, he wouldn't pay attention to anyone else until he defeated Ansuho. He further added that the testing center would become much quieter. Ansuho was calling the supervisor, who stood there in a stupor. Ansuho shouted loudly again, and the supervisor snapped out of it. Ansuho told him that he had accidentally knocked Park Yong out and asked him to take care of him until he woke up. Sometime later, Ansuho was sitting in the capsule, thinking that there were more skilled managers now than before. He suspected that they were probably buff doping inspectors disguised as technicians and hoped the participants would be taken away. The supervisor told Ansuho that now he was ready and he should lie down. If he felt any strange sensations during the dive process, he should press the button to immediately request emergency help. Then he started the capsule. It began closing, and the Hunter Practical Test program activated. The Healer Practical Test scenario program was running, and Ansuho opened his eyes, thinking that this exam was particularly difficult, especially with the low pass rate for healers. He was surprised to see a woman crying and screaming for help, standing before some dead bodies. Ansuho couldn't believe they had set up the program scenario like this. The Great Hunter Association really had no sense of moderation. He thought, taking the Hunter test is going to be traumatizing for me. Rolling up his sleeves, he muttered, "This is why healers are so expensive," and decided to get started. The practical test is considered the core of the Hunter test. The key to the practical test is demonstrating how well a participant fits the class they've chosen. The simulation scenarios in the program change every year, and the passing criteria vary accordingly. Usually, the test ranges from one-on-one battles to one versus many. The participant's score is determined by how long they last and how many kills they achieve. However, the healer exam is a bit different. Unlike other offensive classes, the healing power, amount, and characteristics of healers don't hold as much significance. While exceptional healing ability is certainly important, the virtue of a healer, sacrifice, is considered more important from everyone's perspective. Therefore, healers who save others, even at the risk of their own lives, are awarded higher scores. In other words, in this test, he had to die while protecting the patient. The problem was that his status window specs were still fully intact. In this case, he would have to be beaten up for a long time before he died, unlike other players. He took the sword, thinking, why would he be crazy enough to let himself get beaten to death? No matter what, asking someone who had already died to die again was just too much. He walked towards the lady who was calling for help and thought, there are a lot of screams he can hear right now. But in reality, there are only dead people around and nothing else. Ansuho asked, is she okay? She was trembling in fear, saying, they'll be back. We need to run away before they return. He thought, the test mission is to protect this person until the end. He told her, don't worry, rescue teams will arrive soon. She was looking towards him, and he added, until then, he will keep her safe. Sometime later, a man woke up from the capsule, and the lady near him instructed him to gather his personal belongings and head home. The man left the area. His class was Archer, and he had survived in the capsule for 9 minutes and 4 seconds. She thought, maybe because the difficulty is high, this season's scores are particularly low. She called out to Director Shin and asked how long he had been there. She was shocked when she heard that it had been 30 minutes. She didn't believe it and wanted to see for herself. When she saw the timer, she was surprised and said, this one is a good fighter. Is he a warrior? The man replied, no, he's a healer. She told Director Shin, frequent lying is a sickness. He replied, it's not a lie. She pointed out, he's holding a sword. Stop lying. The man told her to take a closer look. She then saw their main character healing the girl and was amazed. A healer can fight like this, she said. She added, if he doesn't get beaten to death, then he'll be disqualified. But the man had thought the same at first, though he then explained, there's actually no reason for disqualification. A healer's main goal is to protect the patient until the end. Even while doing that, he's fulfilling all the requirements. Instead of abandoning the patient and fighting, he's actually properly escorting and staying close to the patient. He's also healing the patient from time to time. This examinee is now risking his life to protect the patient. If all the conditions are met, there is absolutely no reason to disqualify him. In fact, the practical program doesn't even intervene, so what reason do we have to disqualify him? It seems like the top student in this practical exam has been decided. The monsters were jumping at him, but he was easily cutting them with his sword skills. However, this was not enough, and he needed to be a little faster. He jumped up, pulled out his sword, and chopped the monsters into pieces, completely destroying them. The system was informing him about leveling up his skills, and Ansuho thought, as he had suspected, that even if this place was a virtual reality, if the location where they were standing was on Earth, no one could escape the system's surveillance. From the system's perspective, it determined that the player was moving their body directly, allowing for the mastery of physical skills. Although the experience gain rate was lower compared to physically overworking the body, it was still perfect for skill training. In addition to swordsmanship, Ansuho also gained various skills. He upgraded all the sword skills he had acquired to a higher rank. It might not have given experience points or items, but it was satisfying enough. If Ansuho acquired all the basic skills related to swordsmanship and raised them all to a rank or higher, he could obtain a technique like Park Yong's Dragon Sword technique. Finally, he achieved a great accomplishment, his sword, the Guardian Sword. Ansuho created a new skill based on his unique swordsmanship, the Rank S Guardian Sword. This skill increased the effects of his existing swordsmanship and footwork skills by 50%. In recognition of this impressive achievement, the system granted him 10 bonus stat points. He also attained sword mastery at Rank S. In Ansuho's past life, it had taken him 10 years to reach this level, But now, with his knowledge of everything, his progress was much faster. His value was about to increase significantly. Moreover, he knew that the number of monsters in this test was fixed, which made him wonder how much preparation had gone into it. He considered leaving now that he had gained everything he wanted. To complete the test, there were two options: either be defeated by the monsters or kill them all. For Ansuho, the answer was clear: he would kill them all. Outside his capsule, everyone was gathered, astonished by the fact that all the monsters prepared for the practical test had been eliminated. This was the first time in the history of practical tests that something like this had occurred. It was remarkable, and on top of that, he had even healed the patient. At this point, there was no need to look at the rankings for this exam. A few days later, at Hexagon headquarters, in the Hunter Test Strategy Planning team, they confidently announced, "We guarantee that our Kihyun will be the top student this year." Of course, that's only natural. They had invested considerable effort in training Kihyun. However, this time, it was not Prime but Hexagon that held the top spot, because the top candidate was Ansuho, not Park Young. Everyone was stunned, asking, "Who is Ansuho?" On the other side, Ansuho was on a call with team leader Jung Chulman. Jung Chulman congratulated him after the announcement, but he had been so busy that he was only now able to call to congratulate Seho on passing. Not just passing, but passing with the top score. Ansuho had really surprised him several times. Seho thanked him, saying it was all thanks to team leader Chulman Hyung. He also expressed gratitude for the team's efforts, as they had managed to catch many cheaters involved in skill doping. This would be reported, and future testing regulations would be strengthened. Jung Chulman then nervously asked Seho if he was still interested in joining the Great Hunter Association. Seho mentioned that he might stay in the guild for a while, but his intentions were firm. Jung Chulman thanked him and assured Seho that he would contact him as soon as the test schedule or recruitment was announced. Afterward, he ended the call, noting that it was lunchtime, and they both told each other to enjoy their meals. Seho noticed his voice sounded a bit hoarse, which concerned him. More importantly, he thought he should be expecting a call from someone soon. As expected, he received a call from Nexus Director Kim Suei. Director Kim congratulated him on his success, informing him that the payment had been made as per the contract. Seho thanked her, and she asked if he was considering joining the Nexus Guild, assuring him that they could offer better treatment than any other guild. Seho then asked how far she was willing to go with this offer. She promised to do her best to meet his expectations, noting that since he was an Academy Scholarship student and had graduated at the top, adjusting the terms should be easy. She then suggested they meet in person to discuss it further. Seho thanked her for the offer, but mentioned that he had personal plans today. He added that, as a Nexus Scholarship student, wouldn't it look better if he joined Nexus rather than another guild? She became very excited and assured him she would accommodate his schedule. She further emphasized that he should absolutely not sign a contract with anyone else in the meantime. He said he would see her then, noting her excitement as he ended the call. The taxi had stopped at his destination, and as he got out, he thought about how he had passed the test, received his license, and even got his deposit. Now, all that was left was farming. At the Lighthouse General Market, Ansuho noted that he had purchased everything he needed so far. Now, all that remained was to buy weapons. He had deliberately chosen this secluded location, concerned that the busier stores might not carry what he was looking for. As he glanced around, he wondered if he would find anything suitable here. Ansuho stood in front of a shop named Toyoung Ironworks and told the shop owner that he had just become a hunter and was looking for a lightweight weapon he could use. The shop owner replied, "The items over there are a bit cheaper." Ansuho thanked him and thought to himself, "Look at all this dust. Most low-grade weapons don't have verified information. However, that doesn't mean all unverified weapons are cheap. Some weapons must undergo a process of liberation to become true weapons, and such weapons usually emit an aura that seeks recognition. Not many players would recognize a weapon like that in a place like this." Ansuho activated magic detection, and soon found what he was looking for. He thought to himself, if the owner realizes the true value of this spear later on, he'll regret selling it cheaply and lament over it. He then began channeling magical power into the weapon. The weapon's awakening process started, rapidly absorbing his magic power. As he struggled to keep up, he eventually had to throw the weapon down and collapsed to the ground, exhausted. "If he had been just a bit later, I would have fainted from losing all my magic power to awaken this thing," Ansuho reflected. His magic stat needed to be at least 100 to handle it properly. Even though he couldn't use it right now, he knew it would be of great help in the future. He thought, he will level up quickly and awaken it. In the PBS office, a man named Jo Jin was typing on his PC when suddenly Ansuho called him. He wondered who is Ansuho, but then realized it was the top candidate, Ansuho. During their conversation, Ansuho revealed that he was also the solo raider of the unprecedented gate that had recently occurred at Syndrome Station, which left Jo Jin surprised. Everyone around him was watching, and he thought, is he saying he cleared the unprecedented gate even before obtaining his hunter license? He then asked Ansuho why he had specifically contacted him. Ansuho replied that he had come across Jo Jin blog while searching. He had heard of Jo Jin, referred to as a Golden Spoon Kid. He then asked Jo Jin how about becoming his exclusive reporter? Jo Jin was annoyed and thought, he wants to keep a rich reporter as his subordinate? Of course, he's just some odd guy who thinks he's something special. He understood what Ansuho was saying, but found this type of approach a bit unpleasant. Even though Ansuho was a reporter thirsty for scoops, Jo Jin-wai had no intention of becoming anyone's subordinate. What Ansuho wanted was a great partner, so he told Jo Jin-wai this. Jo Jin-wai replied frankly, explaining what makes a great partner. He mentioned this because it seemed like Ansuho was trying to pull a trick to boost his worth before joining a guild. Ansuho responded, "That's not entirely wrong. It's not about raising my worth, but rather trying to gain some fame." He then added that he was also thinking of becoming a civil servant. Jo Jin-wai didn't quite understand and asked if Ansuho was talking about the Great Hunter Association. He explained that wanting to gain fame through publicity via him meant joining a large guild, but to become a public servant hunter? Jo Jin-wai asked if he must be joking. However, Ansuho was not joking. He was going to join the Hunter Association and work in the field. Jo Jin-wai then asked if he was one of those people with well-off parents, living a life where work was just a hobby and he was after prestige. Ansuho replied, "No, I'm what you'd call a gate orphan. That's why I'm interested in public service. Conquering gates is my life's ultimate goal." Jo Jin-wai was confused, thinking, is he for real? There are so many weirdos, it's hard to keep track. He guessed it didn't really matter. Jo Jin-wai understood what Ansuho meant and said, however, he would have to decline the offer to be an exclusive reporter. He would write the articles he wanted to write. Ansuho then suggested, "Let's make a bet." He felt like he needed to earn Jo Jin-wai's trust to win his heart. Since he was a hunter, wouldn't it be okay if he proved himself through his skills? He was planning on conquering the Tower of Challenge alone today. Jo Jin-wai replied that it was impossible to clear the Tower of Challenge, even with a party, let alone by himself. Ansuho assured him that he was confident this would be enough to win his trust. He then requested that if he succeeded, Jo Jin-wai would become his exclusive and personal reporter. Jo Jin-wai, a top player broadcaster and PBS reporter, took great pride in his work and came from a wealthy family. He was known for never accepting requests and had collaborated with Ansuho many times in his previous life, thanks to his excellent reporting skills and extraordinary ability to manipulate public opinion. However, due to his overwhelming talent, he was eventually cast out and disappeared. In any group, a sharp thorn is seen as a threat, and Jo Jin-wai was that thorn. He had unintentionally been drawn into factional conflicts, which led to his early retirement. Ansuho couldn't allow Jo Jin-wai to disappear like that again. Having a close reporter by his side would be beneficial. Jo Jin-wai was angry and replied that if Ansuho managed to conquer the Tower of Challenge alone, he, as a reporter, would do everything he could to help him. Ansuho responded with an okay, telling him they would see each other later. Jo Jin-wai was irritated by Ansuho's behavior, and it was driving him crazy. He wondered what on earth Ansuho was up to. Why had he suddenly said such nonsense? It was annoying, but it didn't feel too bad. It didn't sound like a lie, and Ansuho didn't seem like a scammer. Confused, Jo Jin-wai stood up, shrugged, and muttered, "Whatever, I don't care. If it's true, that's great. If not, so be it. It's a gamble with no downside." In front of the Tower of Challenge, an officer stood guard, yawning. When Ansuho approached and showed his card, asking if he could enter, the officer replied that he could. He then asked if Ansuho was alone. Ansuho confirmed that he was, and further inquired if it was possible to attempt the challenge solo. The officer responded that it wasn't impossible, but judging by Ansuho's license number, it appeared he had just passed. He suggested that, if it was his first time, it might be better to form a party, even though it was a low-level area, since casualties still occurred. Ansuho, however, was fine with it and preferred to be alone. The officer, watching him, thought to himself that he had a feeling an accident was going to happen. The officer then requested that Ansuho proceed inside. The fee was 70,000 won, and he would need to pay once he received the invoice. He warned Ansuho to be careful, explaining that the Tower of Challenge, commonly known as a hunting ground, allowed players below level 20 to freely challenge themselves for self-development. It was one of the public gates managed by the country. Now that Ansuho's level had been reset, there was no better hunting ground than this. Ansuho entered the Tower of Challenge. The system notified him that he could forfeit at any time, and the moment he declared his withdrawal, he would be transported back to the entrance. He took out a sword from his inventory, and the first floor challenge began. A monster materialized before him. Suddenly, the monster attacked, and Ansuho identified it as a first-floor monster, a slime. At first, he was surprised by the size and speed of the creature. Although the slime's damage was practically non-existent due to it being level 1, if he got caught up in a ruckus, it could become problematic. He knew he needed to take care of it before being dragged around and colliding with anything. Ansuho attacked the monster and destroyed it easily. He knew that he could subdue it by destroying the core. The slime could also multiply, which was very annoying, as the split cores could regenerate into several entities. Of course, they were weaker because they were divided, and there were limits to their regeneration. He started running towards the next slime and thought to himself, regardless, this is the reason why party play is recommended in the Tower of Challenge. Because monsters come in groups on almost every floor. One of the slimes attempted to attack him, but Ansuho cut off its tentacle. He then jumped from one slime to another, landing and throwing his sword towards a monster, destroying its core. He jumped again, retrieved his sword, and began to fall as other monsters charged at him. Suddenly, a tentacle tried to strike him. He just needed to hold on to something, so he grabbed it, preventing himself from falling. Ansuho climbed up and started slashing at the other monsters, destroying their cores one by one. He conquered the first floor. The system then asked if he wished to challenge the second floor. Ansuho thought to himself, there are still 48 floors to conquer, and there is no time to rest. He accepted, and the second floor challenge began. The highest official record for the Tower of Challenge was 48 floors. Of course, this was based on his past life, and the current record was 29 floors. Both records had been set through party play. As Ansuho destroyed the monsters, he thought the Tower of Challenge is usually challenged with a party, with the floors and monsters levels proportionate to each other. As the number of people increases, the experience gain decreases, but in the long run, it's better to stick together. So, if he wanted to challenge the highest record, the standard approach would be to form a party with level 20 hunters. The system then notified him that he had conquered the 18th floor. Ansuho didn't really need to do that, but he accepted the challenge for the 19th floor. The 19th floor challenge began, and it was different from the previous floors. It consisted of only one monster, instead of multiple. He quickly started running forward and thought, that means it's strong. A strong light was coming towards him, and he prepared himself, jumping into the air. But on the bright side, Ansuho only needed to kill one monster, and it would be over. Ansuho was above the monster when it appeared, and he knew he just needed to kill it as soon as it showed up. The monster looked up, confused, just as Ansuho slashed with his sword, killing it instantly. With that, he defeated the monster and conquered the 19th floor. The system asked if Ansuho wished to challenge the 20th floor. He replied, in a bit, and the system put the challenge on hold. Ansuho walked over the defeated monster, reflecting that another unique aspect of the 19th floor was that, unlike the other monsters in the tower that disappeared immediately upon death, the red gain did not follow this pattern. He took the fong from the monster's necklace, knowing that the tower was hinting something could be obtained from the red gain. It was not an item that could be used on its own. It had a specific purpose. Then Ansuho activated magic detection, and a bright ball of light appeared before him. He placed the fong into it, and the ground began shaking as he uncovered Red Gain's hidden den. It was the subspace fortress of Fortress King Jang Pyongho. Unlike other subspaces created with items, this subspace fortress, obtained by defeating Red Gain in the Tower of Challenge, had something unique about it. Ansuho entered the gate, thinking that the unique feature was that living beings could enter and exit. It resembled a cave. Then a bright light appeared before him, informing him that the owner of the subspace fortress had died and asking if he would become the new owner. He agreed, and thus he became the new owner of the subspace fortress. Bright light began emanating from his hand, and the system congratulated him on mastering the subspace fortress. He realized that it was bound as a skill, not an item. The system then informed him that the subspace fortress would change depending on his magic power. A bright light began radiating from the cave. When Ansuho opened his eyes, he was shocked to see that the cave had transformed into a beautiful room. Ansuho looked around, thinking, the interior also seems to be tailored to the owner's tastes. He was glad he had managed to prevent Jang Pyongho from acquiring this skill. He had gone through so much trouble because of that smuggler. The man had stored everything here, from drugs to national treasures to people. Just thinking about the things that man had done made Ansuho sick. It reminded him of the days when he had to stay up all night for days on end. Now that he had taken over the subspace fortress, it was a 2-for-1 deal. He decided to keep moving upward. Zhou Jinwei was checking the daily news updates and thought for a moment that a lot of students would be drawn to Nexus. But hadn't Ansuho said he was going to join the Great Hunter Association? Publishing exclusive articles like this meant that Nexus was confident Ansuho would be joining the guild. Time would tell. He wondered how many floors Ansuho had already conquered. Then the system announced to everyone that the 30th floor had been conquered. The highest record for the Tower of Challenge had been updated. A new challenger was taking on the 31st floor. Everyone was wondering if a large guild had sent a party, and which guild it could be. Then the system made another announcement. The 31st floor had been conquered. Everyone was surprised at how fast it happened. Zhou Jinwei wondered if that was really Ansuho. How long had it been since they ended the call? He had thought Ansuho was just a flashy, lucky guy, but if it really was him, then the system again announced to everyone. Player Ansuho had started to challenge the 32nd floor. Zhou Jinwei thought he would be stuck with him for life. On the other side, Kim Su-ae was shocked when she heard that Hunter Ansuho was currently setting a new record in real time. She realized that to lure Hunter Ansuho to Nexus, they might have to offer a sum that exceeded their wildest imagination. Let's contact the president and the office manager and head to the headquarters, she said. The tower made another announcement. Player Ansuho had started to challenge the 48th floor. Jung Chulman was sitting in a corner, and it was hard for him to believe that Seiho was challenging the Tower of Challenge. His progress was unbelievably fast. He wondered if Seiho's desire to join the Hunter Association was genuine. If it was, it meant they would witness an unprecedented talent. His mobile started buzzing, and he wondered why the vice president of the association was calling. Jung Chulman took the call, and the vice president asked him where he was. He replied that he was in Pangeo. The vice president asked if that meant he was near the Tower of Challenge, and Jung Chulman agreed. The vice president then told him that it was perfect and asked if he knew Ansuho. Jung Chulman replied that they knew each other to some extent, but they were not personally acquainted. The vice president told him that, anyway, it meant they knew each other and instructed him to make sure to bring Ansuho back with him. Jung Chulman was very excited and asked if the vice president was asking him to bring him in as a scout for the association. But the vice president replied, just bring him so he can take a picture with the association president, and then hung up the call. Jung Chulman was disappointed, thinking that it made sense. It's because of people like this in power that the general public views us as nothing but tax-evading crooks, he muttered. He felt frustrated, believing that all the executives in the association should be chosen from hunters. Jung Chulman was wondering what excuse he could use to bring him in. But if poor Jung Chulman had known who Ansuho was in his previous life, it wouldn't have mattered. On the other side, Ansuho had conquered the 48th floor, and the record for the Tower of Challenge was updated. He was tired and thinking, when is this going to end? The system awarded him 5 bonus stats. He opened his status window, and running nonstop was definitely wearing him out. Still, just looking at it was making all his fatigue disappear. Reaching level 39 was great, but getting 5 bonus stats every time he broke a record was not just nice. It was almost overwhelming. Knowing everything made it feel like raising a secondary character in a game, and it was quite fun. He put all his stats into magic, finalizing his complete stat distribution. Then he looked up towards the huge crystal and started on the final floor. The 49th floor challenge began. Finally, he met the master of the tower dragon, level 49. As he faced the huge monster, he thought, level 49? This is totally out of balance. Even if it didn't have pure blood traits, being a dragonborn must make it incredibly powerful. He wondered if this was really designed to be conquered. It was an opponent that was hard to handle. Ansuho looked towards the dragon without fear, gripping his sword tightly. He muttered that he would take it down, then began running towards the monster. The monster tried to attack him, but he jumped away. He realized the dragon was very fast. Then, the dragon began releasing a purple aura, and Ansuho was being pulled by the wind pressure. He was flying toward the monster, which waited for him with its mouth open. However, Ansuho managed to avoid the bite and landed on the dragon's back. He attempted to slash the dragon with his sword, causing the dragon to scream in pain as it tried to shake him off its head. The dragon succeeded in throwing Ansuho off, its eyes burning with anger as it glared at him. He thought, as expected, it didn't even leave a scratch. Enraged, the dragon attacked the ground, destroying the entire terrain. He was hiding nearby, thinking it was a good thing his stats were high. If they had been lower, he wouldn't have been able to avoid the dragon's attack and would have been dead. It was also a good thing the dragon's level wasn't too high. If it had been, it would have found him right away. Well, even though the dragon's level wasn't high, its dragon traits gave it extremely high physical durability. So regular attacks couldn't even leave a scratch, which was still a problem. In that case, Ansuho would have to find its weak spot and strategize. The key was the reverse scale. Attacking that spot would deal significant damage. This dragon wasn't level 100, so it probably couldn't hide its reverse scale perfectly. Then, he spotted a green scale on the dragon's tail. Now that he had found the weak spot, he quickly began to approach. He jumped and was about to strike the green scale when the dragon started screaming loudly and tried to shake him off. The tower dragon was enraged after its weak spot was attacked. Ansuho was hanging onto the dragon's tail by his sword, thinking, as expected, this won't end that easily. The longer this goes on, the more disadvantageous it becomes. He had to quickly destroy the reverse scale. He focused and tried to push the sword further into the weak spot. The dragon started screaming and released its dragon fear skill. Ansuho fell into a state of fear, his muscles becoming stiff. He also began experiencing auditory hallucinations. He activated Cure, but the fear skill was high level and could not be cancelled. The dragon continued to scream loudly, and Ansuho, feeling worried, watched as the dragon struck its tail into the wall. He fell to the ground, trembling from the pain. Realizing he needed to hurry, he retrieved some potions from his inventory. Consuming a purification potion, the state of fear lifted from him. Fortunately, only those he permitted could enter the subspace fortress. He had bought a purification potion from the general market just in case, but he hadn't expected to use it so soon. It was harder than he had anticipated. Since dragon fear didn't immediately grant resistance even after being dispelled, and cure spells didn't work, he concluded that he would have to keep retreating to the subspace fortress and relying on purification potions. He wouldn't be able to defeat it this way. Now that it had come to this, perhaps he should consider seeking help from the mad pulverization scholar. He had learned the basic combination formula from the skill book and summoned a combination jar. He believed that a combination recipe with an absolute formula would inevitably succeed, even if it was the most basic one. These were the items commonly referred to as junk, but the world had yet to realize their true value. He placed the unknown thief's socks into the combination jar. The combination began, and a bright light emanated from the jar. He thought that if he weren't a pulverization scholar, he would never have discovered this in his lifetime. His combination was a success. He had created a rare treasure using the lowest level formula, the first Mumu graded S. It could conceal presence, attention, and traces. If he successfully combined an item marked as first ever, he would receive bonus stats. The reason he had combined the first ever S+ grade item was simply to gain those bonus stats. He was starting to realize once again just how absurdly advantageous the privileges of a regressor were. There were many ways to categorize items, but some people classified them simply as first and not the first. The first items, as the name suggests, are items that have appeared in the world for the first time, and most of them are classified as S grade. He put the ring on and noted that, in fact, the first muumuu was rated S+. The plus sign next to the grade indicated that it was either a growth-type item influenced by the wearer or had a set effect. In the case of the first muumuu, it was the former. Energy began gathering in the ring, and muumuu was now bound to him. This was his first time wearing the S+ muumuu, and it was undeniably impressive. He hadn't been able to obtain it in his previous life, since it had already been discovered by the Mad Pulverization Scholar. As a result, that Mad Pulverization Scholar had revealed the formula for muumuu, causing its widespread knowledge. But in this life, he had managed to obtain the first muumuu. Now, with the bonus stats he had gained, was it time to wake up that guy? He invested 4 points into his magic stat, bringing it to 100. His magic stat had grown even further, leveling up to red. This was the first time he had obtained a red stat while still below level 50, making this growth exceptionally fast. He had thought it would take quite a while to reach purple, but if his growth speed continued like this, he would achieve it in no time. The color system's rank increased by 1 each time it reached 100. Purple was at 700, so he still had a long way to go. But one thing was certain. This time, he might be able to aim for a level beyond purple. With that, his stat distribution was complete. He began summoning the old spear and muttered that it was time to wake it up. He started supplying magical power into the spear, and it began to feast on his mana. As expected, the absorption capacity was enormous. The reaction was starting, just a bit more. A bright light began to emanate from the spear, and Ansuho's magic power was sufficiently supplied. He succeeded in partially awakening it, and obtained the Shadow Spear of rank A+. Confidently, he walked forward, ready to begin his next challenge. The Shadow Spear, a treasure of the Shadow Lord, recognizes its first awakener as its owner. It can be summoned from the owner's shadow via Shadow Summon and repaired through Shadow Regeneration, using shadow and magic power. Ansuho wondered if Jang Pyongho possessed the subspace fortress. The Monarch of Spirits had wielded the Shadow Spear, earning the title of Shadow Lord from its description. This suggested that a real Shadow Lord might exist in the gate, a fragment of the otherworld. Armed with the Shadow Spear, the monarch gained infamy, becoming a major criminal, much like Jang Pyongho. Ansuho was glad that it had fallen into his hands before the criminals. He put it to the test now. He aimed the spear towards the wall, and then summoned the Shadow Spear back. He thought about the returning window. Shadow Summon sure is handy. Then he walked out from his subspace towards the dragon. It would be great if Ansuho could attack him from there, but unfortunately, the subspace fortress didn't have that feature. He decided to deal as much damage as possible to the dragon's reverse scale while it was sleeping. He slowly walked towards the slumbering dragon, summoned his Shadow Spear, and then threw it toward the dragon's weak spot. The attack was successful, but the dragon woke up. The tower dragon was enraged after its weak spot was struck. The tower dragon tried again, using Dragon Fear on Ansuho, but he teleported back to his subspace. He entered before getting hit directly by the fear, so he didn't suffer any status effects. He decided to keep repeating the hit-and-run strategy like this until he took down the dragon. It took longer than Ansuho thought to break the reverse scale. Although it hadn't been completely destroyed, its power had been reduced to less than 10%. The hit-and-run strategy was no longer working. The reverse scale was so damaged that the dragon could no longer let its guard down. It probably wouldn't be anything compared to earlier. Ansuho decided to end this with a head-on confrontation. He appeared directly in front of the dragon's head and attempted to slash, but the dragon blocked his attack with its claws. However, Ansuho summoned the spear back and attacked the dragon's eye. The dragon screamed loudly and flung Ansuho away. The dragon's attack hit him successfully, and he crashed into the wall, destroying it. But the dragon couldn't find him again. Then it spotted Ansuho running towards its weak spot. As Ansuho prepared to attack, the dragon unleashed its powerful Dragon Fear. Despite this, Ansuho succeeded in landing the hit. He completely destroyed the tower dragon's reverse scale. The dragon's energy was severely weakened. Ansuho consumed a purification potion, then leaped towards its neck and killed the dragon. The tower dragon was defeated by Ansuho. He conquered the 49th floor, setting a new record for the Tower of Challenge, and the system awarded him 10 bonus stats. The system began its evaluation of his remarkable challenge. He leveled up, and all his stats increased by 1. Ansuho lay on the ground, exhausted, thinking about accomplishing something no one in his past or present life had ever been able to do. He then acquired the Healing Spirit skill, ranked B, which deploys a healing zone. Finally, he obtained an area healing skill. Once it reaches its maximum level, it should be capable of covering large-scale battlefields just like Isabella's abilities. The system completed its evaluation, and Ansuho acquired Dragon Blood. He was extremely surprised, as it was the skill of the infamous monster player, Yonma. The Dragon Blood skill, ranked S+, carried the bloodline of the Great Dragon. Those who possessed a dragon's blood could wield the power of a dragon, even without being born as one, depending on their efforts. At level 1, its abilities included Intimidation and Dragon Spirit, while the other levels remained locked. Ansuho celebrated his newfound power, thrilled by his growth. Looking back, he confirmed what he had expected from the final boss. The rewards were incredible. He resolved to make the most of them. He retrieved the Shadow Spear and activated it. The weapon reacted to the shadow of the Tower Dragon, beginning to consume it. Gradually, the Shadow Spear completely absorbed the Tower Dragon's shadow. As a result, the Shadow Spear was upgraded to Shadow Spear S+. Ansuho realized that the hidden special option of the Shadow Spear, Shadow Devour, which wasn't listed in the item's information, had leveled up at an extraordinary speed after absorbing the Tower Dragon's shadow. The Shadow Spear updated its item information, and Ansuho reviewed the changes. Both Shadow Binding and Shadow Regeneration, previously ranked A, had been upgraded to S rank. The Shadow Binding skill now tore the target's shadow, immobilizing them. Additionally, when a target was pierced by Shadow Fangs, they suffered continuous bleeding damage through the Shadow Bleeding effect. Ansuho obtained 2 more S-rank skills. As expected, growth-type weapons were on a completely different level compared to regular weapons. With everything he wanted now in his possession, it was time to move on. Just then, he noticed a tooth that hadn't disappeared. When he checked its information, it was revealed to be a dragon's fang, graded S. The fang of a mighty dragon carried a devastating effect. Those pierced by it were cursed with the irrecoverable. It was unbelievable. Ansuho had obtained a dragon's byproduct, something said to be nearly impossible to even lay eyes on. He realized that the Tower Dragon wasn't just a mere dragonkin, but a true pureblood dragon. The byproducts of a pureblood dragon were S-grade materials, simply by their very existence. It was understandable why the reward had been dragon blood, but Ansuho had truly struck gold this time with such a fiery prize. He decided it was time to head outside. Ansuho thought that reporter Zhou Jinwei must be very excited. The Tower of Challenge had been conquered, and the player Ansuho was the conqueror. All players were being forcibly expelled. As they all fell to the ground, they realized that Ansuho had conquered it alone. They saw Ansuho in the distance, surrounded by a huge crowd and reporters. Though he was exhausted, the reporters continued to push their microphones into his face. The damage Ansuho took from the Tower Dragon was worse than he had thought, and he realized he needed to get treated and rest quickly. Then Ansuho saw Zhou Jinwei sitting in a car. He placed his hand on Zhou Jinwei's shoulder, causing Zhou Jinwei to startle and scream loudly. Zhou Jinwei asked how Ansuho had managed to get rid of the people. Ansuho replied that he had managed to slip past them all, though in reality, he had used his ultimate stealth technique to vanish without a trace. Ansuho then raised his hand towards reporter Zhou Jinwei and asked if he still didn't trust him. Zhou Jinwei nervously looked at Ansuho and replied that he knew he was dealing with a crazy person. Ansuho said that if Zhou Jinwei still didn't trust him, he should let him know so he could find another reporter. Zhou Jinwei replied that if he didn't trust Ansuho, he wouldn't have come this far. He then hopped into the car, urging them to leave before people started chasing them.